G-Ditch, and welcome everybody to Craic on the Coast, New England and Beyond's Irish Cultural Podcast, set here in Plymouth, Massachusetts, but today we are in Worcester, Mass. at the Worcester Irish Cultural Festival, and joining me today is my co-host, Greg Shanahan. How's it going, Greg?
It's going well, Mike. Thanks for having me again. I was just getting ready to say we're fairly far away from the coast today, but I'll tell you what, it feels incredible to be here on such a beautiful day and getting ready to listen to some incredible music, watch some great games, and I'm just blown away by the whole environment. This is two times in a row you've had me out, and 2 times in a row it's been a home run of an environment.
Yeah, this is not bad for our second on-location recording. We've been blessed with great weather, and we have great environment, like Greg said, and we are looking forward to a couple of great guests. We don't know exactly who we'll get, but we'll see what happens. But we'll be here today, spreading the word on the Craic and getting people fired up. What are you looking forward to most?
Well, I mean, I have to say, there's going to be some, not only a great curling match this afternoon, but 2 great football matches. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And we have probably some of the best seats in the house for that, although the field's looking a little small. But, I mean, just so many of the guests that you mentioned that we might be able to see, Derek Warfield, I think would be someone who...
if we pull that off, then we're having a good show.
I'm hoping your new fancy banner attracts that level of interest. So I would love that, but I think any number of people, it's going to be an amazing day.
Yeah, I'm excited. For anyone that's never been out to the Cultural Festival here in Worcester, it's their 3rd annual. It's at Pourmen Park, which I just have to say the venue has been amazing. Just
really
initially, how it offers you the ability to see the games, listen to the music, and be able to have easy access to the vendors and the presentations that are going on. It really is an amazing venue to pull all that off.
No, it's definitely unique, and I think it's something I look forward to coming to again. I mean, it's hard to describe, but we're sitting between amazing music, amazing sport, and amazing culture all at once.
Yeah.
And I just saw that they had shepherd's pie over at the concession stand, which is about 50 feet away from here, so I'm looking forward to trying that as well.
Yeah, they put us in a good spot.
No doubt.
So we'll get back with different guests as they come in, but tune in and keep listening, and we'll see who we end up with. Okay, Greg, let's go.
I'm ready.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to Craic on the Coast, here live at the Worcester Irish Cultural Festival on this Saturday, October 4th. Great weather, great music behind us, great sport, and we're joined right now with one of the members of the Pourmen who will be on later on today, Mr. John Curtin. How you doing, John?
What's going on, guys?
How you been?
I'm great. Yeah, this is a great day for the festival.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
This weather is great, the venue's great, the crowd, unreal.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen anything like this for some time. This is definitely worth the 45-minute drive up from the South Shore.
Yeah.
Now, have you played this is the 3rd annual. Have you guys played the 2 before or just last year?
We played last year. The year before that, they had it a little bit differently. They had the sport here at Pourmen Park, but they had music was over at Hibernian Hall across the street. And they had, I believe it was Lunasa that year. So they just had the one act. So last year they brought everything here and had all the vendors and the bands, and so it was just one big enclosed festival.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We had Kate and Gareth on a previous show. We were talking about the venue of Pourmen Park, and Greg and I were talking before, the idea that you can be sitting and walking through and have access to the music, the sport, and the vendors all at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's another festival you can pull that off at.
Yeah, I can't think of one off the top of my head. I mean, I remember I grew up in Easton.
Okay.
And I remember when they had the festivals over at Stonehill College. That was through the woods from my house.
Yeah.
Then they moved them over to Canton. It was something similar. You know what I mean? They had the main stage, and they had a couple of tents with other music and stuff like that. But yeah, you could do it there. But I don't know of any festival around here that does this. Not this way, anyway.
This does have the feel of those festivals they used to have over there in Canton.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
They had the field and the setup and the stage, so
Yeah.
just unbelievable. I mean, we were just saying it's so busy these days. It's almost like every weekend something else is going on.
Oh yeah, like Irish culture it's a year-round event now. It's
yeah.
not just during March.
Well, I mean, we've come across this phenomenon now since we've been playing that, March is always a busy month for us, but now September is a really big busy month because everybody's discovered, that's halfway to St. Patrick's Day. Fair enough. If you want to pay,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, we'll take the money and
Right.
come to your pub. Absolutely.
So give us a little background on the Pourmen. So the band itself is based out of New Bedford, correct?
Band is based out of New Bedford. Started in 2013. First show was on St. Patrick's Day, 2013, and most of the bands at that time was from that area.
Okay.
I joined probably about a year later. So like I said, I'm originally from Easton, but I live in Worcester. I've been living here for about 14 years now. And then we've got our drummer who's been playing with us for the past month and a half. He actually lives here in Worcester as well. And our fiddle player is Katie Cook. She's from Bridgewater.
Oh, okay.
But most of the band is still from the New Bedford area.
Which has a huge Irish historical roots.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they get the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick down there, and
Yep.
they put on all kinds of stuff in the community. So it's a great area.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, living in Worcester for the last 14 years, you obviously, we're going to talk about the venue again, you obviously saw the transformation of having the Woo Sox build Polar Park and become a staple of the community.
Oh, yeah.
Has it made as big of a difference as it feels?
It's been huge. This whole area, I mean, there was really not much here. Where we're looking over is on Green Street. Actually, that big apartment building used to be a rock club called The Cove.
Okay, yeah.
Sir Morgan's Cove back in the day. That's the Rolling Stones played a secret gig there in the early 80s.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I read about that.
But yeah, this was all pretty much open space. I mean, I don't know if there was some derelict buildings around here, but yeah, this has been really built up, and there's a whole bunch more housing going up. A lot more retail going up in this area. They actually redid Kelly Square to drive around. It used to be kind of a free-for-all, which I think some people prefer that, but
Sure.
Now they've got they call it the Peanut Rotary, so it's a little easier to get around. But yeah, it's really been built up. They get the Worcester Ice Center down the street, where the Worcester Railers have their practices, and they get a lot of youth and college hockey over there as well.
Great.
So yeah, this whole area has really come up.
I mean, and myself and Greg, being from the South Shore, we're not as familiar with the Worcester area unless you're coming out here for like a ball game. But There's, from talking with Kate and Gareth, there's a huge pub culture here. I mean,
really
obviously, from that passport program they put together.
Yeah, there really is. I think Boland's is the newest one of those, but I mean, there's Funky Murphy's, there's Breen's. What are the other ones they got there? The Galway Bay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a ton of great pubs around here and bars and clubs and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really great.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
The city has a lot to offer, a lot more than people think it does.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and like I said, there's Irish history here.
Mm-hmm.
When I was driving in, I saw the exit for Grafton Street.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And it's Boland's. They took their name from the guy who designed what used to be the Blackstone Canal through Worcester.
Sure.
Boland, he was an Irish native as well, so that's where they got the name for the pub. So, yeah, there's a lot of Irish history here.
That's great.
A lot of great connections and great energy going on. It
Yeah.
feels like.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's get back to the band and the music.
Sure.
Obviously, what are the inspirations? Obviously, you guys, you market as Celtic punk, so obviously there's got to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, even before that, I grew up listening to, the Clancy Brothers and Tommy Makem, and also, the Wolfe Tones and the Doublers and stuff like that. And then in the 80s, the Pogues came along and, just changed everything I thought about Irish music at that point.
Sure.
And then, as the years came on, as more bands came around, there was Flogging Molly, a band, the Tossers from Chicago, Obviously, Dropkick Murphys, started out as like a 4-piece punk band, and then just started adding more and more, and really took on leaned into the Irish influence. So yeah, we're influenced by all of that.
That's
and,
great.
And we have our own songs. We play some of the classic traditional ones, and we cover some contemporary bands as well.
So how much of your own original stuff do you guys do?
Well, we've got 3 albums out, and we've also, the past few years, we've been every year right around St. Patrick's Day we'll release what we call a St. Patrick's Day double shot. So just 2 songs. Usually it's a traditional song and then maybe an original one. So we've got a lot of that, and we play a lot of originals in our set. But at something like this, we want to play the stuff, play the hits, as they say.
The original stuff, I mean, you guys must take a lot of pride in that, because there's, you could make a career out of just doing covers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, it's like we've got Ginty singing behind us. I mean, he plays pubs all the time, and he plays, you'll hear him play everything from Saw Doctors to, really traditional rebel songs and stuff like that. But he has his own original songs, just because, if you spend enough time with your guitar playing other people's songs, you want to take a crack at it yourself,
Sure.
And everybody has things that they want to get out on paper and into songs. So yeah, we like doing that as well.
That's great. So what's schedule look for you guys after we get through the crazy month? Well, it's October now, but
yeah, I know. We're kind of wrapping up the Halfway to St. Patrick's Day tour. We've got a private party next week, and then we've got a show. I believe it's either the 24th or 25th down at the Poor Farm Tavern in New Bedford. And then it's going to be a little bit easy. I think we only have 1 show for November. We'll take that easy. And then January we'll start ramping up, and eventually get in. February and March are just going to be insane again.
yeah.
But we're always willing to listen to offers, I should say.
There you go.
That's good.
So what I would say, talked about the music, and what would you say is your favorite part about today?
About today?
I mean, other than the fact that it's only a 5-minute drive from your house.
That's definitely a bonus. So my favorite part about today is, I mean, we've got a bunch of people here who already know who we are. I love seeing new people come up and discover us, and just come and talk to us. We always love, just like making new friends and fans and stuff like that. I really love doing that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I would just, unless you got anything else you want to promote?
Nothing at the moment. We should be going into the studio fairly soon. We've got a couple of songs we want to record, so look for those.
And with regards to your original and your albums, available on Apple and Spotify?
They're all on Apple, Spotify, Bandcamp, all of those places.
Great. That's awesome. Well, we're excited for you guys to get up there.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too.
What time did you say you're playing again?
We are on at 2:30.
2:30. Well, we got a front row seat.
Excellent.
This is awesome. Well, we thank you for coming on, John. I'm sure we'll talk to you again, and we're excited to make the acquaintance. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Fantastic. Okay, everybody, welcome back to Craic on the Coast here at the Worcester Irish Cultural Festival. We're enjoying our day, beautiful weather, and we're welcomed by our next guest, the 2025 Boston New England Rose, one Miss Maeve Kelly.
Yay, hi. I'm so happy to be here.
That's great. We're glad to have you on. I would say probably the first biggest question, just for any of our listeners that might not know, what is the Rose of Tralee?
That is my favorite question.
There you go. Okay, and a little bit of history behind it.
How many times have you answered this question, do you think?
A lot, and it never gets easier. It's one of those questions that you can say it so many times and you still have to think about the answer every time, because it does have so many different meanings. But the history of it is, it's an international festival that takes place in County Kerry and Tralee. There's 32 roses from all over the world, and it's basically to celebrate the Irish diaspora and, bringing people back together that have emigrated from, Ireland, left, and everyone kind of has a different reason why they left. Some people are 5th generation, some people are, they live in Ireland.
Sure.
And so it's just a celebration of Irish women. And they originally started with, they had 64 roses, and they were like, this is way too much. We need to cut it back. So there's a Boston Rose every 2 years. So that kind of will, they'll change up who can go when and that kind of thing. And so it takes place in County Kerry in Tralee, which is where my grandparents are from. So it's something that's so important to that local community. It's like a huge thing. They wait for it all summer. So to get to go back in this role was really, really, really special. But that's kind of the short history of it. People have different takes on it, but that's how I would explain it. Is it really is about the Irish diaspora.
Okay.
And
And with your lineage going back to Tralee, from what I read, it doesn't sound like you were unfamiliar with it. You've been around it before.
Yes, I had been around it when I was 5 years old. Or sorry, not 5 years old, but 2005? When was the first time I went? 2005? You can cut that. You can.
Oh
fix
yeah,
it right
we can. Yeah.
So in 2005, my nan took me for the first time, put a sash on me, brought me in the front row. I was mesmerized by it. And again, when you're in Tralee, you see the roses everywhere. They're brought to different restaurants, pubs, and they're kind of like this figure of like, oh my gosh, it's a rose. So to be back as oh my gosh, it's a rose was definitely a surreal experience. And to see the festival from a different perspective was also something really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, when you're over there, how does the relationship go with all the other roses, obviously? I mean, you're all vying to become the Rose of Tralee.
Right.
But it looked like from your social media posts that there's a lot of camaraderie there. It's definitely, you're not pitted against one another at all.
Yeah, and the first thing they say to you when you meet, it's, everyone's nervous, right? It's a big deal. The first thing they say is if you're in the room to win, you're in the wrong room. You're not.
That is good.
Because you kind of wonder a girl's going to be competitive, and there is naturally some girls it's just in their nature, and I think that makes it fun that they take it from that perspective. But genuinely, it all disappears when you're busy. You're doing this, you're doing that, and like I've said, the last 30 seconds it dawned on me when I was on stage. I was like, oh, they're going to pick someone now. Like it didn't feel like that up until that moment because you're so busy and you're really again it's not you've already won. And they say that, and I'm like, oh, okay, but really, once you're in it, you realize you have already won, and especially if you get to represent where you are from, that's the win, right? Like,
sure.
It's just Caitlin Cummings, who is the Rose of Tralee that was selected. She represents all of us, so you feel happy. You feel like you won. At least that's how I feel anyway. I haven't talked to the other girls about it, but I think that's how they feel as well.
That's an amazing way to look at it. Can you describe for us, some of the people you've met along the way, some of the friends that you've made?
Yes. So my roommate was Anna from the County Down. So the Ulster girls were incredible. They are so much fun. You get to meet people that you never would have been exposed to before, and that's something that's so special. So Anna, she's 22 years old, so there's quite an age difference. I'm going to be 29. But it never felt like that. You know what I mean? You get there and you're just like, wow, there's this really amazing person. And that's the other thing is these girls are the best of the best from where they come from. So I just felt like every conversation I was like, wow, that's a really good conversation I just had. Like all the girls are so amazing. The Queensland Rose, the New Zealand Rose, like just when was I ever going to meet someone from New Zealand?
Right,
do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So the Ulster girls were amazing. The other American Roses, so we had Texas, Ohio, Philadelphia, Boston, and Arizona. So we also, within the American Roses, you also have that kind of camaraderie because it's a different experience for us versus the Irish, the girls that are from the country, from Ireland itself. So we definitely had our own little, you okay? Like, you good? You know what I mean? Like, how you doing? Because it's a lot to, to show up to a different country, even no matter how many times you've been there. It's still a lot. It's a jarring experience because the wake-up calls were 7 a.m. every morning on the tour.
Oh, wow. No matter what was going on the night before.
Because and the thing is, you don't want to miss anything. You don't want to, if you're doing something at night, you don't want to go to bed because you don't want, it's going to be over soon.
Yeah.
So you don't want to miss it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I get that. So now you're officially the Rose of Tralee. Well, the Boston Rose.
Yes.
It's every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
What's expected of you for the next 2 years before the 2027 is chosen?
So my job now, as I think of it, is to one, promote the festival. Like, I want everyone to know, every, female that can enter it under the age of 30, I want her to know about it, and that has Irish lineage, whether you're first generation or fifth. I feel like that's a really big, important piece to me, is to get the word out there so girls can go for it and have that same experience and tell everyone how amazing the festival is, and to go to events like this and kind of bridge the gap and, let people know about the connection, right? It's like building the connection between Boston and Ireland. So I get to go to these things, and sometimes people stop me and they're like, Boston, not everyone knows about it over here, so I get to have that conversation, and then they leave knowing about it, which in my opinion, that's how we'll be able to keep the festival going, is by stopping and explaining, this is what it is. You might not have heard of it. Do you have a granddaughter or a daughter that, might want to do it?
Right. And one conversation that you and I had previously was, your goal is to make sure that people outside of just the Metro Boston area are aware of it.
Absolutely, right.
Because it's, like you said, it's all of New England.
It's Boston and New England Rose. So my goal over the next 2 years is to connect with as many Irish cultural centers, the main Irish Heritage Center. I want to go to those places, so it's not just local to Boston. It just so happens that I'm from Boston, but in the next selection, I would love to see, we have 2 previous roses from Rhode Island that are my mentors. I'd love to see Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, to really let them know about this, if this is something that they would want to enter. So I'm excited to get to travel, even to be at, Worcester is outside of something that we typically would have gone to. So
Sure.
To be here even is a good start.
Speaking of mentorship, what advice would you give somebody who was thinking about going through what you've gone through?
I would say practice making yourself uncomfortable, because it's a very I love talking to people, but it even is like, whoa, I was uncomfortable. There's moments where I was uncomfortable, but it's all it's to prepare you for that TV night, right? Like when you're on tour and you haven't slept or anything, it's really to get you ready for when you get to Tralee, which is the main part. And I would say, just take every moment, because it goes so fast. Like, I can't believe that it's already over.
Sure.
But I definitely think making yourself uncomfortable and putting yourself out there. I've talked to so many girls that I could see going for it, and I'm like, would you ever? And they're like, I couldn't put myself out there. And I'm like, you can put yourself out there. You can, you know what I mean? You can do it. So that would be my advice.
Now, one question I would have, you brought up the age gap between some of the other women at the Rose of Tralee event. You've been through college.
Yes.
You have a job.
Yes.
How do you balance, and I would like to just put it out there, I mean, you have a very noble job. You're a mental health counselor.
Yes.
My wife went through, is an adjustment counselor in public schools, so she deals, I have a lot of respect for the career.
Yes.
How do you balance both?
I know, it's kind of like 2 different worlds.
It is.
Like when I came back from, my trip and I got back to work, I'm like, wow, what I just did doesn't, especially when you're working with people in crisis, like they don't necessarily need, it's a different world. They don't need to hear that. So honestly, I've found it as a great, since it's, it's a job that can have high burnout rates, very heavy things, it's kind of like a little blessing that I can put this sash on and have these beautiful life experiences. And then it's also humbling, that you're then going back to these people that are in, crisis. So it's definitely a balance, but I think it's honestly been great. Like, I feel like I have a new lease on life now. I'm like, I have a Rose thing this weekend. It's great. It's something to look forward to.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
But the age gap thing is, our youngest Rose was 19. Our Maeve Rose, and she went first. Because they just assign you randomly. She was first on the night of the TV, because they split it into 2 nights. So you don't know what number you're going to be until like 2 days before. So she went first, and I was last. I was number 32.
Wow.
And I was one of the older ones. I think the Limerick Rose is also up there. There's a couple, big age gaps, but you don't feel it. When
Sure.
you're in, it's all one. I don't feel it anyway.
No,
The
no,
younger
I mean,
girls.
You would think that.
And just for the record, 29 is not old.
I know, my
it
mom's
is
looking
not.
at me like,
It is not. It is not at all. But I could wrap my head around your life experiences getting through college and getting a job. You have more life experience compared to a 19-year-old.
right.
That really hits me, like how a 19-year-old could be mentally and emotionally prepared.
Right,
to
and
undergo
that's
something
the
like
thing though, is they are. And like some days I would be leaning on the younger girls for that, like if you're having a tough moment of like, I don't know, we're going here and there, it's a 7-day tour leading up to Tralee. So there are moments of, exhaustion, and I found myself looking at some of the younger girls for that encouragement, which just shows that it's an open play, you know what I mean? We're all just there for one reason. And it was like, again, you're a 19-year-old and a 29-year-old, but you never, like, I just genuinely never felt it. And that's because I think of the caliber of women that go into this.
Sure.
They're just incredible. Like some of the girls are actively and fully in nursing school. You know, I'm working a job, but they're in school, right? And they're still balancing it. So I'm like, okay, if they can, and they work. I'm like, okay, they're amazing. Yeah, no, I love the younger girls.
Now to get back to your ties to Ireland, so you did 4 years at University of Galway.
I did.
So how was that? Just for listeners, we Greg and I have two friends who both have children that are going to school over there. One in Limerick, one at Trinity. I would love to hear just your experience of doing it. I mean, my 12-year-old Jack is sitting over here, and I'm really pushing him to make the leap. And because from what I understand, everybody has had a great experience doing college over there.
It was when I decided, I did a semester at Bridgewater State, kind of didn't know what I wanted. And I, texted Mom and I said, I think maybe Ireland. And she said, Dad and I were waiting for you to figure that out. We had thought that all along, but we didn't want to tell you. So then Mom said, okay, if you're serious. And now they have a better system for Americans to apply, but this was back in 2016. There was no way to do it. I had to figure out what my SAT scores mean. Like, I had to talk to each individual university and figure out what I could get into based on my, they have a whole system now, but I really had to do each school individually. I got into UL, UCC, UCD, NUIG, and we went over one it was New Year's, and we toured all of them, and Galway was the last stop on our tour. And once I got to Galway, I just fell in love with it. Like it was a no-brainer. It was going to be University of Galway.
Well, Galway's a neat city.
It is. I was mesmerized by it. And then I moved over that following September, and I was adamant. They wanted me to live with Americans, which would have been a comfortability, to live with other American students, but I was adamant that I needed to live with Irish students. If it was going to work long term, I had to live with Irish, or I wasn't going to fully immerse myself. Got paired with a great group of girls, and then through them I met lifelong friends that came down to Tralee. They're from Laois, which is funny because the Laois Rose, she was the winner, so we were happy. They were there to celebrate me, and when I heard Laois, I was like, oh my gosh, the boys are going to be so happy. So that was also very full circle. So they came down to Tralee, they've come to visit. It was the experience of Galway, and one of the questions they asked me in my interview for the Rose of Tralee, the judges, what was your one takeaway from Galway? Was it the food, the art? And I said it was the people. 100% it was the people that I met. So I would recommend it's cheaper to go than a lot of the big name universities, in America. You can do 4 years for the same amount of 1 year at, a big school. So.
Yes. Oh, definitely. Yeah. That's great. I mean, that's a fantastic attitude to have. You talk about getting yourself prepared to be in uncomfortable situations. Yeah. It sounds like you were like that right out of the gate.
Yeah. That was definitely. I remember when Mom left, I was like, oh, I'm here, and I literally don't know anyone. But because Tralee, Ireland is small, but Galway to Tralee is a trek. That was a big leap. So I would go back on the weekends, but it was an uncomfortable situation, but there was something great that came out of it. Same with the Rose. I remember thinking on the first day, what am I doing? Is this right? A little bit of feeling uncomfortable because again, you room with the same person the whole time. So then you meet this girl that you've never met from County Down, and something great, beautiful came from it. But there is that moment of I don't know this person, but there is something beautiful in it for sure.
Well, you didn't look nervous at all throughout the entire process.
Thank you.
I followed it fairly closely, and I was always so proud because I've seen you around the Cultural Center and stuff.
Thank you.
The Boston Rose, every single, no matter who I was following or where I was watching,
yes.
I said, oh, this she is.
Thank you.
But it was so impressive, and to hear your story of how you were focusing on being comfortable, being uncomfortable, things like that.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense because you comported yourself incredibly.
Thank you very much. I was backstage in the last one, and Dahi came over because Catherine interviewed me, but Dahi was, getting ready to go back out. So Dahi O'Shea came over and he grabbed my shoulders and he was like, "You're gonna be great," because I was I was shaking back there. And then when I came off, Daniel O'Donnell was waiting because he was gonna go on and sing, and Daniel was like, "You did great." I'm like, "What is this? I'm like, Dottie O'Shea walked me on, and Daniel O'Donnell's waiting for me when I get off. Like, you felt like a winner. Like, every girl that after their stage, felt like a winner. Do you know what I mean? Like, you just feel like a winner no matter what. I know when we were celebrating Caitlin, we all were crying. You know, there's tears of joy because you just feel like Caitlin's going to represent all 31 of us beautifully, and she already is. So there's no loss that you feel with that, and I think that that's what's beautiful about the festival is you get lifelong friends, you get this sense of confidence, right? I saw a lot of the girls go through this transformation throughout the tour of maybe very nervous, and then by the end they're commanding a room. So it was really cool. It was really, really cool. I want everyone to experience it.
Well, and you know, in a day and age of, I have an 8-year-old daughter, you know, having those types of role models that portray women as, like you said, confident, controlling a room, that's important.
Yeah.
That's important because there's also, you know, there's influences that aren't positive for any young child, let alone a young girl. Yeah. So that's great. I am excited to see what the next 2 years is going to bring.
Maybe your daughter will be a future Rose.
She might. She likes attention. So.
There you go. I think that's one thing there with the girls is there was never a quiet room, right? You're always like, there's always chat or conversation. So she likes the attention. She'll get it. And we have some visitors coming for St. Patrick's Day. Some of the Roses are going to be here in Boston for St. Patrick's Day, and then we're going to head to New York. So, and we're going to Germany for the Christmas markets, and then we'll do a New Year's ball in Tralee. So there's a lot to look. The year doesn't end after. It's almost like it's beginning, right? Like after the festival ends, you then have all these things to look forward to. So I'm so excited to have some of the girls here for St. Patrick's Day.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Great. Well, we're so glad you could come by.
I'm so happy
it's
to
a
be
busy
here.
day, but
so fun.
I'm so glad that you could come by and be on.
I'm so happy I could be on. This is great.
Well, definitely, I'm sure our paths will cross again.
I think they will, for sure.
The amount of festivals, that's all we keep talking to everybody about, how Irish culture is not a 1 month a year thing anymore.
And I love that. And I think
months.
it needs to be that way because it's sometimes can just feel like it's that one day a month, St. Patrick's Day, done and dusted. But there is so much more to it that needs to be showcased, especially like our sport, to see this being played in this kind of a venue with people that might not even be Irish. You know what I mean? They might not have any Irish in them. I love that it's welcoming and it's not just one day a year. And my brother's born on St. Patrick's Day, so it's honestly convenient to celebrate it other days.
Lord, I can't even imagine that.
I know.
It was that's great once when he turned 21.
I was going to say he's going to regret that.
And my dad is the 18th. So Owen's the 17th and then Dad's the 18th.
Oh wow.
So it's a lot. So it's nice to be at something like this in September or October. It's nice.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for coming
Of course,
on.
this is so fun.
I'm sure we'll talk again.
Yes,
and
definitely.
good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maeve.
Of course.
Okay, here we are back again, Craic on the Coast, in the lovely Polo Park in Worcester, Mass. for the Worcester Irish Cultural Festival. We've had a couple of guests on today, but I would say no one that would have the history and the recognition more than the gentleman to my left, and that would be Mr. Derek Warfield. How are you, Derek?
Oh, thank you very much, Michael. That's a very, very complimentary introduction.
Every compliment is deserved when it comes to you. Someone who's been a staple in Irish traditional music and rebel music for as long as you have, and then I give you credit, you're still doing it after, as you said, 60 years, and inspiring the youth to keep doing it.
Yeah, well, it's important that we do that because we should never take tradition and heritage and culture for granted. It's always important to pass it on to a new generation. We're only the caretakers.
I love that term.
Yes,
caretakers.
Well, and we look after the heritage while we're alive and contribute to it. And in every generation in Ireland, our musical heritage has a very special place because not only did it express the views and of the Irish people in every generation, but Irish people considered music and poetry an essential part of life.
Sure.
And since the earliest texts of Irish history were ever written, you'll find music.
Yeah.
You'll find poetry. And there's not many races that can say that. But it's that strength that has given the bards, the musicians, the tradition its strength over the years. Every generation has regenerated the whole heritage, and that's been very important. And of course, the other strength is that we got from it. It was a big part of a resistance to the attempts by England to make us English.
Sure. I was going to bring that up. I mean, I feel like a lot of the reason why we take it to heart is because it was taken away, or at least tried to.
Yeah, the attempted change of Ireland happened back in the 14th century when the English authorities realised that the settlers that were going from England into Ireland, adapted the manners and customs of the Irish people.
Right.
And the only way English colonialism worked is if the colonial community that was settled there were kept separate from the natives.
Okay.
And that's still in evidence today in the north of Ireland.
Sure.
See, because they didn't want assimilation with in fact, there was the laws were passed when the two nations were Catholic, that any English Catholic that married an Irish Catholic, the children would be termed a spurious issue. So, initially, there was nothing got to do with religion, the attempt at conquest of Ireland. It all had to do with race. Right. It was all race. And that, if you look at the history of the 13th, 14th, and 15th, 16th century, until the two nations separated and gone different ways with religion, it was race that was that set the difference and the attempt at conquest. And of course, the conquest and all the long winter and all the series of events and laws were then taken around the world by the British Empire,
right,
to other countries, and we were the testing ground.
Well, I mean, what's your take now that the fact that we're centuries removed, but as you said, it's so important to keep our music alive, and we're talking about songs and poems that were written over 100 years ago, and they still pertain. They're still picked up by the new generation and played, and that says a lot on not just the songs you're responsible for writing, but all song in general.
Yes, I think it resonates with the youth because it has something to say about injustice. It has something to say about life, and then the important things in life sometimes don't change.
Right.
They're the same as they were 500 years ago as they are today. And it's just like the scenery. You go to Ireland and see beautiful scenery. Well, those mountains were there when Brian Boru looked at them.
Right.
And they don't change. Either there's the history and the important aspects of our heritage. There was a great poet patriot that lived in the 19th century, Thomas Davis. And Thomas Davis was a Protestant. But he looked at Irish heritage, tradition and culture, and he said that there's no part of the culture that can boast of higher claims or greater influences than our songs and our music. It has strengthened our nationality and identity, and in every generation it's done that. And one of the reasons why we even have the conflict in England was that English authors, commentators back in the 13th, 14th, 15th and 16th centuries were envious of Ireland's great longevity of heritage and tradition. It's the oldest written language in Europe, Gaelic. It's not like any other other European language. So it's a very powerful statement that Ireland has stated. It's probably today certainly one of the most nation states in Europe. There's no other nation state more clearly defined than the island of Ireland.
Sure.
And the other nation states have changed over the generations in Europe, but Ireland has been an island state nation since the oldest written text of Irish history. And that's the strength that I've lived off, reading the ancient books of Ireland that were translated by great scholars that could read in Greek and Latin, and could make them understood for people like myself who knew my own language of Gaelic and the English language. We were able to assess her for ourselves the great civilization that existed in Ireland. And I always say this to people when I'm speaking, Irish educational system from the 6th century to the 10th century educated most of Europe. I've always reminded people that Ireland was never conquered by the Romans.
Sure.
Britain was.
Right.
But Ireland was never conquered by the Romans. But we did have a lot of communication with the Romans. Many of the Romans came to Ireland. They looked at society. They decided not to touch it. Yes. And they might be able to maybe get a victory, but they'd never be able to hold it. And that's the way I viewed it. So the Irish had respect among the Romans. And one of the great things that's been found recently is one of the great monuments of Ireland is Newgrange. It's an ancient monument that is in County Meath. It was built over 5,500 years ago as a tomb or a temple. And in that monument, all archaeologists have found Roman coins.
Oh.
And the reason they found the Roman coins was that people came from Roman Britain and they venerated at the monument. It was such an ancient structure. So it had importance for the Romans. They didn't know, perhaps they knew more than we did, its significance. But they came to Ireland to view the culture and to look at the people and to have intercourse with them, but not to conquer.
And I thought we were just going to talk about music today.
Yeah, really.
Yes, well, go ahead.
No, this is like absolutely fascinating. There's so much history behind why our culture is what it is and how music represents it in written word, and it's really important for people to understand. You're always going to repeat history if you don't understand it. So
I think that's absolutely correct, because in the most ancient books of Ireland, music is mentioned, and that's very important. And one of the things I often say to people is that all Christian countries relate the story of the Bible and Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden, and they were thrown out of the Garden of Eden without food, without raiment, but in the Irish edition of the Bible, and without music, which means that a life without music would be worthless.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Derek,
So go ahead, Greg.
When you talk about being caretakers of our heritage, our shared heritage, well, what advice can you give people to be responsible and effective caretakers in passing down, the important facets of our heritage, particularly the music? I mean, how can you do that effectively? What are some of the ways that you've been so great at it over the years?
Well, I think, first of all, to support the youth endeavours of expressing it in a different way. A youthful exuberance will always come along with new ideas. And sometimes people frown on those ideas because it changes the criteria of the heritage. But I never do that. I allow the youth to look at it in their perspective for their generation and contribute what they think is necessary and what they hold as valuable, because eventually they see and understand that like every generation has contributed in some way to changing it. It's an ever-going, evolving tradition, but it also retains those things that were contributed by generations gone by. And that's one of the great, if you like, discoveries that I had, was that I started to look at American history and look at the Irish contributions to it, and I found first of all that Irish people, when they came to America, brought their music with them, and they expressed it in a different way, and they expressed it in a way that suited the new culture that we're having in this country. So they wrote music about the Civil War, they wrote songs, they wrote poems. So I did 3 CDs on the Irish music of the Civil War. 3. And I only scratched the surface. And I realized when collecting the songs for the Irish and the American Civil War that on both sides they wrote music. And so I produced a CD that represented the Irish in the South and why they fought and the songs they wrote. And I found that there was practically no support in Irish people in the South for slavery. They were all anti-slavery, but they did want to protect their homes and their newfound, if you like, their newfound cities and towns where they, to Irish people, and people forget this in America, America has always been great to Irish people because we could do something when we came to this country we couldn't do in Ireland. We could be Irish.
Yeah.
Without fear. We could be Irish and express our identity without retribution and without indeed oppression, and that's what we lived under in Ireland for generation after generation. So, and the music was a big part. But with this, looking at the music from the Civil War, I discovered some songs that didn't fit, and I said, these don't fit in the Civil War. And I realized there were songs from the Revolutionary War, Irish songs.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, maybe there's a couple of albums here. And I started to study the Irish in the Revolution. And I went to books that are not in print today, and that were in print back in the early 19th century and 20th century. And I found that the Irish were everywhere. They were at the Battle of Lexington and Concord, and they wrote songs about them.
Now, Washington was a huge fan of the Irish and his brigades. I mean, it was...
Washington was a very smart man.
Well, we know that.
Yeah. And he was primarily smart because all the men who wrote his letters, 7 secretaries he had, 6 permanent secretaries, they were all Irish. You wouldn't trust anybody else to write them. And his closest secretary would have been John Fitzgerald, who was a cousin of Lord Edward Fitzgerald, who was going to be the George Washington of Ireland in the 1798 rebellion.
Right.
So Washington knew Irish history, and he's on record as having considered a descent on Ireland. And all his comments about Ireland have always been consistent, that he believed that the freedom of Ireland, the liberty of Ireland was consistent with the liberty of America. And, but I think that the fact that I found songs that were written by Irish people during the Revolution didn't surprise me, because I know Irish people do write songs all the time, and a lot of the Pennsylvania Lion, I found a song from the Pennsylvania Lion, "Success to America says old Granny Whale." And that was written contemporary with the times of, it was written during the war. Sometimes many of the songs for events are written after the events, after the war, but I found lots of songs that were written during the war.
Sure.
Like the one about the Battle of Concord, the Irishman's epistle, and because when you look at the literature from that time, you'll find that the propaganda that the English were putting out in America, Thomas Jefferson had the name for it, he called it the Warriors of the Pen, the English Warriors of the Pen. And Jefferson, that was the name he gave. He said there were so many bad things written about him and Benjamin Franklin in the English papers that he expected, when he went to France, when he came home, he expected that Franklin would have been strung up.
Oh.
They had destroyed his character, which I believe that Franklin, when he came to Ireland, that changed his attitude to England.
Sure.
When he seen the absolute destitution of the Irish people in Ireland, it changed. He said they would do the same to us. And because Franklin represented English interests here in this country, and he completely changed his attitude after his visit to Ireland.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's nothing being written about Franklin's visit to Ireland.
No, not at all.
Why? They don't want you to know. They want you to know. I mean, I've said this to academics in Ireland. Why don't you consider? I mean, he addressed the old Irish Parliament when it was in it had its power in the late 19th century. But again, music for me opened the doors of history.
Sure. Oh yeah, it's out. Yeah. So obviously, passion for it is nothing you're short of, but at the same time, you know, you're still going. You have a very eclectic group around you. You know, you read from Damaris and everybody that's playing with you. It's a very talented. You have a very talented group around you playing right now. How, other than just being an inspiration, what gets you to get up and go on tour? Because tour, I mean, you really don't have to do it anymore, obviously.
No.
It's because you want to.
I think maybe I consider what I'm doing is I'm looking at past history and seeing in that history Ireland's contribution is not fully recognised in the English language. And that motivates me to try and redress that.
Okay.
Much more is being considered now from the time I started back in the early 60s. In the early 60s, nothing was known about Ireland, about Irish America.
Right.
You know, but today in Ireland, people are aware, and they'll be aware this year because I've done unrecorded songs for a new CD I'm doing on the opening of the Erie Canal.
Oh wow. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier on totally different topic, but that's fascinating.
And you know, the Erie Canal was built by Paddy with the shovel.
Yeah.
Its nickname, I discovered in one of the books contemporary written, was Paddy's Big Ditch.
Huh.
And Paddy's Big Ditch was 365 miles long, the biggest enterprise and structure ever built by American government, you know. And the significance of it is so great that at the opening of it, there were 5 former presidents of America.
Wow.
And the sitting president. President Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, President Adams, and John Quincy Adams. And the future president, Andrew Jackson.
Oh, wow.
They were all at the opening. That tells you something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, how important it was. And that's, to me, when I was searching that, how did I find that? I found it in a stupid small little pamphlet that was written about the time in Albany. I went to books that have been written by people. It's been well studied event, and there's lots of songs being written about it. But I didn't find anything about the president's presence. And I thought that was very significant, you know. And what I also thought was significant was that it was proposed by the Clintons.
Okay.
Dewey Clinton, and his family came from Longford in Ireland. And my daughter lives down in Longford, and I asked her to do some research. And I said, you know, where were the Clintons from, you know? So she found out they were from Castle Forbes. And she found out that the whole family left in 1729 or 1739 to come to America because they were Presbyterians.
Okay.
And they were just discriminated against as Catholics were in Ireland. And they came to America. And George Clinton was I think he was vice president under 2 presidents. That was the original Charles Clinton's son. And they proposed that because they had the experience in Longford of looking at canals going through to connect to Shannon.
Okay.
And they knew they'd be able to get labour from Ireland, and which they did, and they got, the starving masses in Ireland were only too happy to come and walk in the Erie Canal, and a lot, it was a massive undertaking.
Oh yeah.
And like the first time it was Clinton came into Jefferson and said, well, how about building the canal? He said, are you crazy?
So at this, what's it mean to you to be able to come out to a festival like this and be able to share your music, share that history, share the knowledge with with the younger generation? And
I do,
everybody.
yeah. I try and send them off to do projects, and I get letters from all sorts of young people.
Yeah.
I asked them, you do me a great favour. I said, if you could research this for me, I don't have the time. And some of the people, have been very good to me.
Yeah.
Young kids, because they're sitting in colleges and the professors are telling them to go over things that have done. They won't tackle anything that's outside the box.
Sure.
Because they're afraid with the way political culture goes today to tackle things that, well, he won't like it, the master of the university. He doesn't want that touched,
Right.
So...
that's great.
But if I tell them, they see the merit in it. Now, I'm looking at it from purely ethnic and cultural view from Ireland. But I also consider that, that we were exposed to, when we went to different countries, to make choices about the way we'd live, and we had to adapt Irish people to the culture of the societies in which we went to live. So, but the Irish people did that very well.
Oh yeah. Everywhere.
They were very good at that.
Yeah.
And I think essentially they just wanted. Our tradition shows that when we did have in early Christian Ireland peace and freedom and education, that Irish people, it was centralised around recognition of the importance of the environment and the importance of, indeed, peaceful coexistence and spirituality. And I think the Christian message played a big part in that. And there's a couple of good books written about that. And I always recommend a book written by Benedict Fitzpatrick called Ireland and the Making of Europe. And he had wrote another book called Ireland and the Making of Britain. And it's the educational ability of the Irish monks to impart their knowledge to people across the world, and also, as I think it was, I forget who said it. He said it had Saint said it wasn't Saint Colin Cale. He said we can learn from non-believers. So to the Irish monks' credit, they wrote all the literature down from the Greek civilization when Rome didn't want it written down, and they were able to do that with the understanding that they could learn from believers.
Sure.
My Christian faith has had a big, powerful effect on me through the years, and it's a big part of Irish people's heritage.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you, after, how long have you guys been on tour now?
We've just been here for 3 weekends. We played in Butte, Montana, at a hurling festival.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and last week we played down in New York.
And you were at the ICC in Canton?
In Breezy Point and in Rockland County. And so this is our last show, and we're going back to Ireland tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's good.
But we'll be back in November. Yes.
Oh, so you won't be gone long.
Yeah, really. That's not
No. We do our tour. We do our cruise in November. What time is it?
It is 3:37.
Yeah, I'm on at 4:50.
Oh, jeez, we better get you going then. Well, this was an absolute pleasure, Derek. Thank you so much for coming on.
unbelievable.
I hope I've expressed some thoughts that brings you to books.
Yeah.
Will bring enlightenment to people, the understanding where we are today.
Sure.
Because they do, it's important that we look at the past, because we make human nature being what it is. We make the same mistakes again every generation over.
Yeah,
That doesn't change.
True.
Yeah. But thanks a million.
Oh no, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, Greg, here we are, the end of the day. Not all the guests on that we wanted. We did see some regular friends. Mike Rain came by, said hello, but he was a busy man with his workshops he had going on. Davey Holden, I got to see him, say hello, possibly have him come down to Plymouth to do something. Which
That would be exciting.
Yeah, that would be exciting. But you also really cannot complain at all about who we had come on today.
Absolutely not. Really exciting day. Incredibly enjoyable day. Not just the environment, but the guests.
Yeah.
Derek, we got to see the New England Rose.
Right.
Have a great conversation about that.
John
Incredible
Curtin
experience.
from the Pourmen came on. That was a good introduction.
We got to hear him play immediately after we interviewed him, which is pretty good. We didn't tire him out because the set was amazing.
Right. No, and they had beautiful weather here, but for anyone that has not been to this festival, it was a top-notch operation.
Unbelievable. I mean, we talked about it in the introduction, the setting itself. You're literally sitting in the middle of a festival in the truest sense of the word.
Yeah.
Food, culture, music, great people, incredibly welcoming to us. What an amazing day. And the weather you're not going to have a better day this fall, I don't think, weather-wise.
No. And
although hopefully we have a good day tomorrow for the Brig St.
Yes, hopefully. If we get this weather, we'll have to wear sunblock.
That's true.
Yeah. But for anyone who listened to the show, I would have to say it was a highlight for me to be able to have any type of conversation with Derek Warfield, let alone understand the true depth of him as a historian and what he goes through to be an original songwriter.
Depth is the right word, Michael. I was prepared to talk music.
Yeah, same here.
And you know me, I'm almost always ready to talk history. But I wasn't geared up for that, and I wasn't geared up for just the depth of the emotion and the poignancy of the discussion. I mean, I could have gone all day long, and if it wasn't for his set that's getting ready to go off right now, we'd still be talking to him.
Yes.
I wouldn't have let him go.
No. And if anyone was listening, literally he had to get up so that he could go on stage. So he was very generous with his time.
Unbelievable.
Very generous with his knowledge.
Just to imagine that, probably more than I've ever thought of before, what goes into, the traditional and the rebel music that somebody like Derek is just a master of. Just the thought behind it and the history and everything that he's leaning into when he writes and he's leaning into when he performs just makes listening to him and thinking about times I've heard him perform even more special and meaningful.
Yeah, and with what he's worked on over the last couple of years with the young Wolfe Tones and obviously what he's working on now, I think Irish America should take note.
Absolutely should. And, it's so deliberate what he's doing, too, when he talks about things like caretaking and, really listening to the younger people who are coming up in, the music scene and engaging young historians on, what they should be writing about, what they should be thinking about was really an eye-opener and just made me an even bigger fan. And I was, I don't get overwhelmed that easily, but that was overwhelming, and I'm certainly glad we weren't filming it.
Yes, yeah. And speaking of overwhelming, I don't want to really put about too much that I'm sitting here with chills right now. I have goosebumps because we're talking about this, and literally they just went on behind us
just
kicked off, and they're singing On the One Road, and Derek is up there at 80-something years old, and you would never know. The amount of energy the man has is amazing.
No, it was amazing, and he is amazing, and just couldn't cap a more a more amazing day off better. I don't think so.
Yeah, I would agree
Definitely.
with that.
Thank you again for having me. As always, I enjoy my time here and being guest host. And we're going to spend so much time together this weekend that
And
I might
so-
claim you on my taxes, Mike.
I am going to stop right now because I am going to mention this, that a few weeks ago we had Davey Holden on.
Yeah.
And we ran a jersey contest where we gave away a jersey. And the lovely lady who won that jersey on the contest is standing right in front of us. That's amazing.
Unbelievably fortuitous.
Hello, Amanda.
I saw him actually.
Yeah.
I introduced myself. I was a little, I don't know why shy, but like I was like, hey, thanks for the jersey.
No,
'Cause
thank
it's
you for
awesome.
listening.
It's fucking cool.
Oh,
It's
we
cool.
can bleep
okay.
out.
All right. So,
Yeah, and we're not live. Yeah.
Sorry. Excuse
That's
my
amazing.
French.
I'm
But
jealous of the shirt too. I don't.
Honestly, I got it. I was like, this is a cool ass.
It is.
That is.
He's doing a really good job.
Yeah.
And did you see the images he posted of the new one?
Yeah.
The black one with the
I know,
proclamation?
yeah, and I will be buying.
Now you have a set.
Yeah, no, I love it because I love his, videos of the history of Ireland.
Oh, yeah,
I
they're
think I'm,
great.
like, super into it. So
Sure.
yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you guys.
No problem.
It's been a fun day.
Yeah, today's been
So-
awesome.
Yeah, you guys will be here next year, I'm sure.
Oh, we will
And
be.
you're on the South Shore.
Correct.
Where?
Plymouth.
Plymouth. Okay. All right, what is it called? No. What's that place with the chowder on the water?
I don't know. There's a lot of places on the water
I
with
was just gonna
chowder.
say that's a huge ass.
That's okay.
Never mind.
Thank you, Amanda.
Have a great day.
You
Amanda.
too. I don't know what the hell else could happen today.
I guess not. That was another drop-in guest. So
Yeah.
thanks to all the guests today, including the drop-in T-shirt winner.
Right.
Start giving away tickets to Ireland.
Yeah, we could start giving away tickets to Ireland, and then we'd see if we run into them too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But anyway, for everybody who has never been here, Greg and I highly recommend it. Great day. We had great guests. As we said, just said to Amanda, we will definitely be back here next year.
Without doubt.
That I would just like to say thank you to the festival and to Gareth and Kate. And yeah, we'll see you. We'll catch you on the flip side.
See you then. Thanks again.
Sancha.